This video will go through the Setup and Run tab, which encompasses a typical working day in a lab where QC procedures will be completed and a run will be set up using DiscovIR10's edit sequence. Usually one instance of DiscovIR10 will be dedicated to the hardware and is typically open all the time. Additional instances are open to do data processing and close again. These are not allowed to connect to the hardware as only one instance is allowed to connect at a time. The Toolbox and Setup Run tabs are what connect to the Discover hardware. Go to the Setup and Run ribbon and open its tab. The ribbon is set up so that the sequence of events follows from left to right. Just below the ribbon there is the Actions View block. This will display the history of activities that the operator has performed. A blue background behind a button on the ribbon indicates the button is depressed. It may turn itself off upon completion or can be pressed again to abort the action or procedure. Most buttons are mutually exclusive and cannot be turned on until the previous button has turned off. A typical day starts with unloading the sample disk and cleaning it. The unload button will stop the pumps and vent the system, requiring about a minute for a system in standby. If the diffusion pump is hot, it will take longer for it to cool. The procedure can be aborted by pressing the unload button again. While the disk is out, the QC tests are performed. DiscovIR10 is typically set up with the laboratory's required validation intervals for each QC test. The validation requirements must be satisfied in order to start a sample run. When the IR signal button is pressed, the Discover will start recording the interferometer intensity. If the signal is around 0, the MCT is warm and should be filled with liquid nitrogen. When the operator sees that the interferogram intensity has stabilized, the IR signal button can be pressed again to stop the procedure. A pop-up will appear to ask if the data should be saved to the QC history, which we will see shortly. The green region shows the validation criteria. The next QC test is the noise test. This will take 5 separate readings of the noise and display them on the chart. After all 5 are taken, the average noise will be displayed above the chart and the test will read pass or fail. When the operator chooses to save the information, the average will be displayed in the QC history. The last QC test, wave number accuracy, is typically performed less frequently. To perform this polystyrene check, the operator will press the WN accuracy button. Confirm the polystyrene serial number matches that of the pull-down in the software, and place the polystyrene standard on the black bubble. The zinc selenide disc can then be placed on top. Proceed through the procedure as guided by the pop-up windows. When the test is completed, the validation will appear. Remove the polystyrene sample and save the information to the QC history. The QC history can be seen by clicking on the QC History tab within the Setup and Run window. Here the operator can view the tests that were run complete with the date and time as well as the qualifying information for its passing or failing. Now the Discover can be set up to run samples. Place the sample disk into the Discover, making sure it was cleaned, and press the Load button. The Set Temperature Condition button is a pull-down and allows the operator to set the temperatures to run conditions, standby conditions, or to turn the heaters off fully. Optionally, to set the temperatures to a different setting, the expansion button may be clicked. Since we are running the system, we're going to click on Run Conditions. The next button is the Start Pumps button. This will turn on the rotary pump, followed by the diffusion pump, when the vacuum is low enough. When setting up the sample sequence from DiscovIR10, click the Edit Sequence button. This will bring the schedule window up. This window can be visited while running samples to see how many samples have been run or to edit the sequence while running. For now, we are going to set up a sample run. Edit the old sequence, load a previous saved sequence, or press the New Sequence button to start a new one. Add or edit the sample name. If the GC is being run from DiscovIR10, then browse to select the method and choose which file number the sample is in. Under DiscovIR10 parameters, choose where the data should be saved and fill in the operator ID and any comments. If editing a previous sequence, the data path can be updated for all entries by pressing the Same Path for All button. Fill in the solvent delay and the end time for the data collection. The solvent delay allows the solvent to deposit in the sink, preventing cross-track contamination. A typical disk speed is 3 to 6 millimeters per minute. When highlighted on a sample, the operator may duplicate it, adding it to the end of the sequence list where it can be edited. Special features like Overlay Previous Track can be selected at the bottom. Use Same Track will deposit the current chromatogram physically over the previous one. Multiple overlays can be used to enhance sensitivity. Samples can also be highlighted and deleted, or moved up and down the list. To the right, under Sequence Properties, the scheduled time duration for the sequence is displayed, as well as how much of the sample disk will be used. Under this, the operator will see the estimated required amount of liquid nitrogen needed. The operator may change the liquid nitrogen needed for cooldown and the hourly liquid nitrogen consumption. These values are saved until changed. Update these values and adjust the GC recovery time to improve the accuracy of liquid nitrogen consumption prediction and to the total runtime. The liquid nitrogen predictor displays the requirement for the remaining unrun portion of the sequence list. The Dewar dipstick allows the operator to measure the amount of liquid nitrogen in the Dewar for comparison. If checking the dipstick level during chromatography, minimize the time that the Dewar cap is off to maintain the nitrogen gas purge. The operator can optionally save the sequence. Note the sequence as edited and displayed is what will run. If the sequence has been changed since saving, Discover will run the changed sequence. Check to see if the diffusion pump has been turned on by looking at the right under Status Monitor. If the diffusion pump is on, then the operator may press the Run Samples and start adding liquid nitrogen. Also in the Status Monitor is the disk usage. The light blue indicates the amount of disk planned to be used, and the dark blue indicates the current usage of the disk. Unrun samples in the schedule sequence list can be reordered and edited while running. The Pause Sample button may be pressed and the Discover will finish the sample it is on and wait further instructions. The Discover will automatically move to standby mode when the sequence is completed. If the operator would like to override this, they can use the expansion arrow under Collect and uncheck it. If the operator finds that they need to move to standby mode because the system is in running condition, but they would not like to run a sample, the Go to Standby button should be pressed. This will bring the hardware to the normal non-operating conditions. Lastly, the Shutdown button gets the hardware ready for a full shutdown. This will turn off the heaters and stop all of the pumps. This procedure takes time to safely shut down because the hardware needs to pump out all of the cryogenically frozen liquid on the cold Dewar. For information on viewing the spectra, watch the data workup video. For those viewers who have used Discover 6 with grams, please note that some names have changed for clarification within Discover 10. For example, a line is now called IR signal, polystyrene is called WN or wave number accuracy, and most of the items from the Utilities workbook can be found in the Toolbox ribbon and tab. Thank you for watching.